want to talk a bit more now about time management and like how to set up a revision schedule rather than revision techniques. So I'm just going to come over here. So I want to discuss revision schedules actually. So this is kind of like a controversial thing. Some people hate it and some people really like it. So I personally hate them. I hate revision schedules. I only use to-do lists. I'll explain the difference like in a bit, but I'm going to go through why you might want to use one first. So first of all, you can break down your topics according to spec and plan around this. So for example, a lot of people, they'll look at a specific topic of their spec and they'll plan that in for like Monday, and then they'll plan like this spec topic in for Wednesday, and then they'll try and like repeat that over and over because again it's about repetition, and that works. You know, you can set a specific time for it, like a 40-minute revision slot, and then have like a 10-minute break slot. So that's the other thing, is schedule in your repeated sessions. So don't just review the information once, make sure you revisit. And also schedule your breaks and your hobbies as well. So, you know, onto the part of this whole session being about not ruining your Christmas, I'd probably recommend like blocking out certain days where all you do is just like Christmassy stuff or whatever you want to do. And then also with your revision days, make sure you do add in the time for relaxation and have it in your planner so you don't forget and don't overwork. To add to that, I'd also probably say schedule in some buffer time. If you're really sticking to a timetable, you never know what kind of unexpected things would happen. So yeah, keep that in mind. And when you're making your revision schedules, don't just write like, I don't know, biology topic 1 or something. I'd try and use something called like active verbs. So I'll probably not say that. I'll probably say something like complete mind map on like X topic, or like read this or write this. So start it with an action verb because that can kind of initiate you to work a bit more. You're more likely to do it basically. So I'll put action verbs for tasks. Yeah, so that's kind of like the basics of how to set up a revision schedule. Obviously plan according to your deadlines, which subjects you're weakest in. Those ones are the ones that you need to go over first. But why I hate them is because I like to use just a to-do list with no kind of like time restrictions. And the reason why is because for me, if I just put a to-do list, then there's no like set thing that I have to do at a certain time. Meaning, say if in the morning you had originally scheduled in like history or something, and say if you had writer's block and you didn't feel like doing history, then it would be really annoying for you to have to force yourself to revise it. So I always kind of structured my day depending on how I felt. Some days I literally had writer's block, I couldn't do any written subjects. Some days I literally felt like doing maths all day. So I'd really tailor it to yourself, and to-do lists are great for that because you write down a list of all the things that you might want to do that day. You obviously check it with your weekly goals and whatever, and then you just do whatever you want at whatever time of the day, depending on how you feel. So this kind of brings me on to my next topic of efficiency. So how do you revise with as little time as possible so you can enjoy your holidays? So that's the first thing I talked about, was mood optimization. So do things according to when you're most productive. Like some days I literally can write so much in 10 minutes, and that's the days which I know I need to schedule in my history, my English. And then another thing is spatial optimization. So I'm sure you've heard this a lot, but just making sure your surroundings are correct for you to revise. One tip is have everything you need next to you, because any excuse to get up and get your folder or your pens or whatever is another excuse to procrastinate. So have all that you need nearby within arm's reach. So you make revisions easier. Okay, so we talked about 2 different types of optimizations. One thing here, obviously, we talked about was time of the day optimization, depending on when you work best. And then one final thing about efficiency is phone apps. So Actually, just phones in general I want to talk about. So we've obviously got apps like Quizlet. There's something called Done, which I really like to use. Basically, it gives you, you kind of put in your tasks, and every time you've done it, you tap it and it kind of like fills up the bar. So it's quite satisfying to have like a full, like loads of bars different colored at the end of the day. And you can set them different frequencies. So for example, one of mine is drink water, and I have that set 7 times a day. Um, and yeah, so you kind of like have streaks and stuff as well. So this is quite good for building habits. There's also something called Todoist and Asana. These are both apps as well to help you kind of keep on top of your schedule, set your own deadlines. And also Off Time and some other apps as well help you limit your phone usage. I personally don't use any of them because I know that I won't use them. So I just either put my phone in a different room or kind of hide it somewhere so it's not in like my eyesight. So that's another thing, is keep phone. Okay, so that's a little bit about efficiency and like how to plan your revision. And then in terms of a bit more specifically on time management. So I mentioned earlier doing 40 minutes work, then maybe like 10 minutes break. But there is something called the Pomodoro, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, technique, where you work for 20 to 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. And I thought this was really effective, and it's quite helpful for me to keep focused. Say if you don't have a very long attention span, that's quite a good technique to use. I'd also factor in rewards like food. So maybe at the end of 3 25 or 2 20-minute sections with the 5-minute break, you can reward yourself with a little bit of something to kind of keep you going and motivated. Oh, and I also think it's after like 4 sessions. Pomodoro work blocks, take a longer break. I think it's like 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, so you can structure it like that throughout your day. And then the final thing, oh, this one's actually quite good. So I hadn't heard of this before, but I went to this masterclass thing like ages ago, and it told me to measure productivity, not by output, but by focus. So some people, they kind of lose motivation because they set themselves all these things that they need to do at the start of the day. It's all about output, and then they don't meet it because, let's admit it, like nobody really ticks off everything on their to-do list all the time. So that kind of can dishearten you. So what I think you should do is measure how productive you are based on how focused you can keep on the time that you've allocated yourself, i.e., say if you set a Pomodoro session of 25 minutes, if you manage to focus 100% for that 25 minutes without being distracted, without slowing down, and being at your like optimal productivity state of working, if you manage to do that, that's how you know you've been productive, and that's what you should measure how successful you've been at the end of the day by. So yeah, measure it on how focused you keep throughout the day instead of output.